Hey y'all, Austin here with Outer World Media. Welcome back to another book review, guys. This is about Scott Harvarth, guys. This is about The Path of the Assassin. Yes, this is the second book in the Scott Harvarth series by Mr. Brad Thor. And I'm not going to lie, guys, before kind of getting into the review of the book and what it's about, I'm going to be honest. My expectations going into the series weren't super high. I've been working on a couple series that are over 20 books, the Longmire series, Dirk Pitt, just stuff like that. And usually the books are good. I'm not going to lie. There seems to be a little bit of a dip or kind of quality tends to go down just a tad bit. Obviously when you have a series that the books are, again, over 20 books, it's going to fluctuate. But at least for me, it seems like it either is goes up in the quality or kind of goes down, if you will. This is the first series where the second book, in all honesty, was on par with how great the first book was. I'm not gonna lie, I loved the first book, The Lions of Lucerne. So again, my expectations were very high going into The Path of the Assassin, and I was not disappointed at all by any means. But real quick, let's kind of go over what is Path of the Assassin about. This, I'm not gonna lie, guys, me as well as Faceless did not have any idea what it was going to be about. In all honesty, we just said, hey, you know what, we're not going to read the back of the book, we're just going to kind of go into this blind. We loved the first book, let's see what happens with the second book, let's see where Mr. Thor takes us. So what I will say is, if you are wanting to go into the book blind like what me and Faceless did, highly would recommend it, in all honesty. But if you want to know kind of a non-spoiler variation of what is the book about, essentially book 2 is picking right up where book 1 left off. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is we are led to believe that everything is taken care of in the end of book 1, but there is something that happens in book 1 that just can't be explained. I'm not gonna lie, when I finished book 1, I was kind of thinking that was a little okay, that kind of wraps us up, but I still don't understand how this happened. And that's where Mr. Thor takes us on book 2. It is trying to figure out this event that happened in book 1 that was very pivotal in the book. And again, it's led to believe that everything's finished, everything's taken care of, and that's not the case. So we see Scott go all over, well, a few different countries, if you will, to see what is going on and find this so-called assassin and see how were they connected to these events, or what do they know about these events in book 1. Again, very, very great just follow up. In all honesty, I feel like if you took book 1 and book 2 and just kind of put them together, you'd have one massive book. But I really think it would work, in all honesty. Again, I don't want to give a whole lot away in this book, because again, obviously it's not a spoiler, but there's just so much that happens in this book that I don't want to go into the small details, if you will. What I will say is we do, again, get to follow Scott as he travels to different countries. This book, and I do apologize, I didn't check the date that it was written. There's an event that happens in here that might hit a little close to home, for something that happened over 20 years ago here in the US. So again, kind of take that as you will. Reading a book like that, in all honesty, and kind of looking back at previous events and stuff that's happened, kind of puts it a little bit more into perspective of just obviously, if you're going to read it, how high the stakes are. But having events happen years and years ago, you realize, okay, this is even more the stakes. Like you hold your breath while you're reading about this event that is happening. So again, Mr. Thor does a very, very great job just keeping you on the edge of your seat. The action in the book is top notch, in my opinion. And then on top of that, the banter that we get to see, that has been probably, aside from just the quality of how well the book was and how well it was written, and just the pacing of the book, I should say, me and Faceless both agreed The banter is amazing. It is phenomenal. It is one of those. It kind of feels, in all honesty, on par with a Walt and Henry Standing Bear from Longmire as far as the banter. So again, just a very great book. Not anything you can necessarily have to worry about. In all honesty, I finished this book a while ago, and I've slacked off on getting this review out. And I put the book down for about 2 weeks, in all honesty, because I was reading King Sorrow to try and do that live review with old Kevin Toll. And after about 2 weeks, it told Faceless, hey, I'm ready to pick the book back up. I'm far enough into this book, I'm not having to worry about not being able to finish it by the deadline. And we were both a little worried whether or not we were going to be able to kind of remember who everybody was, kind of what the situation was. And we were probably about halfway through the book at that point, and just picking it back up, just not even missing a beat. So again, this is a book you can sit down, you can enjoy. It's not going to be anything, I don't think, that's going to change anybody's lives by any means, but it's a great read. It is something, if you were in an airport, if you're on a lunch break, if you're, whatever you're doing, if you're on a bus, if you're on a train, if you're on, in my instance, happened a few years back, I was on a cruise with my family when I was reading books. So again, anywhere that you have the downtime or just the willingness to pick up a book and just enjoy it for what it is, I would highly recommend this series so far. Again, at least book one and book two, they are phenomenal in my opinion. Definitely worth picking up. Again, obviously, I would highly recommend reading book one, because otherwise you're going to be confused as all get out when you try to start the second book. But again, if you picked up the first book and you enjoyed it, and you're hesitant to start the next book, and you're kind of wondering whether you should or not, I would highly recommend picking this book up. If for whatever reason you have not read book one, you just kind of stumbled upon this review and you're like, hey, what is this about? You're kind of wondering, pick up book one. Again, this series so far has not disappointed by any means. This has been a smash hit with me as well as Faceless. So again, highly recommend picking it up, giving this series a try. Again, Scott Harvarth by Brad Thor, the Scott Harvarth series, I should say. Book number 2, Path of the Assassins. Again, just a great read. As always, guys, let me know down below, what are you reading? If you've read this series or read this book, tell me what you think. And if you're interested in picking up, let me know. I'm curious how many people are going to be picking up this series after me and Faceless talk about it. As always, though, guys, y'all have a great one.